command you, brethren. So he's talking to Christians, not people that are unsaved. But we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw from every brother or sister who walks disorderly and not according to the tradition which he received from us. Those are strong words. Now, we're not talking about a one-time issue. The idea here is habitual unruliness, habitual disorderliness. This person is constantly breaking ranks. And Paul says to the Christians at Thessalonica, he says, you withdraw yourself from them. Now let's look a few verses later, 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 11. This is how we know he knew that there were problems going on there. 2 Thessalonians 3, verse 11 says this, for we hear, he heard this through Timothy who checked on the church, for we hear that there are some who walk among you in a disorderly manner, not working at all, but are busybodies. Now, one of the things we know about the church at Thessalonica is that they believed that Jesus Christ was going to come back immediately. And so they all quit their jobs. Now, I don't know if they did this, but they quit their jobs, put on white robes, went to the highest mountain, and sat and wait, for the second coming. Well, he didn't come that day. He didn't come the next day. He didn't come the next day. Before too long, they became bored, and they started bothering other people. So I can imagine in my mind's eye that they were borrowing money because they weren't working. And they still had bills, and they still had to eat, and so they became a problem. They should have gotten jobs and started working again, but they didn't. They became busybodies. So it is important for us to make sure that we keep our priorities correct as we're serving the Lord. Now, what do we do with folks who are unruly? Well, it's always done, we're going to talk more about this in a moment, but it's always done in love, but it's also very clear that if someone is habitually being unruly, then at that point, this is where you say, we're going to do this and you're going to be allowed to do that. And God will take care of that. So, warn the unruly. Also in verse 14, we see comfort the faint-hearted. The faint-hearted tend to get discouraged easily and want to quit. The people in the church need to encourage discouraged brothers and sisters. All of us, at one point or another, go through seasons of discouragement. Maybe even this morning, there's someone in the church that came, had a rough night last night, maybe didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night, and you're just discouraged. Whatever it might be, finances, relationships, health, whatever it is. Jerk for a boss, but you're discouraged. Our job as fellow believers and church members is to come alongside that person and encourage them. Sometimes an encouraging word is all people need. So not only comfort the faint-hearted, but uphold the weak, also in verse 14. There are folks at different points in their spiritual walk here at Calvary Chapel. There are some in this room that have been saved for many years. There are some who have just been saved a short time, maybe a few months. And there are some in our congregation that have never come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. So it's all different types of folk. But this is talking about the spiritually weak or immature people who have not grown in the Lord yet and are not strong enough to trust the Lord in the difficulties of life. Their faith isn't there yet. Mature Christians need to look for ways to hold up or support weak Christians or immature Christians until they're ready to stand on their own feet. It's almost like with our children. The baby comes out completely helpless. But our job is to grow them, mentor them, challenge them, encourage them, and little by little to become more and more independent, which is a good analogy of what we see for Christians. And then he says in verse 14, be patient with all. Remember, these are all things that we're supposed to be doing with one another. The instructions in verse 14 were directed toward the treatment of people who are out of line or faint-hearted or weak. This instruction covers our treatment of fellow Christians. We are to bear with all people. Our response to Christians is to be one of long-suffering, not impatience. Too often, we have the idea, well, you should know better. Why aren't you stronger by now? Why are you weak? And we get impatient with that. We want them to be further along than they are. It's hard because it grates on you sometimes. It is our goal to be ready to help all Christians who at any given moment in time are not acting appropriately. That help includes warning and admonishing with patience. And then in verse 15 we see, always pursue what is good. Listen, and I hope you hear this. I'm going to say this twice for the folks who didn't hear it the first time. Retaliation is never an option for a Christian. Again, let that soak in a bit. Let me say it again. Retaliation is never an option for a Christian. When a fellow Christian wrongs us in some way, our response is to be done with kindness and love, not a bloody nose. Even though we feel like we want to do that. Sometimes, and we have the example of Jesus, turn the other cheek, go the extra mile. It's very clear what we should be doing, and this is definitely what he's talking about. Always pursue what is good. It is not enough just to refuse to respond with evil. We must respond graciously with love. It's not enough just to be passive and say, oh, it'll pass, and just kind of avoid it. But actively respond with grace in love to the individuals. Let's turn to Romans chapter 12. This passage is always convicting to me, and it probably will be to you as well. Romans chapter 12, verses 17 through 21. Romans 12, 17 through 21. Once again, we're dealing with another imperative. These are all imperatives, or all commands. He says this, just in case we don't get it, here he's very clear in black and white. He says, repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. In other words, focus on the good stuff. I mean, too often all we see is the negative. I know it's easy. You got the news on, you're on the internet, you've got whatever you're reading. It's all negative. Sometimes it's like, let's don't turn the TV on because I don't want to be discouraged, politically or otherwise. Focus on the good. Take in the good. Be positive about it. Not head in the sand positive, but know what's going on, but have a different perspective. He says, repay no one evil for evil. Look in verse 18. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Can I add women too? And then 19, he's talking to Christians. He says, beloved, do not avenge yourselves.